Coming up on Talking Points, Trump signs a historic first bill of his second term. All the controversy around the Laken Riley Act.
And a huge judge places a temporary block on a Trump administration ban to freeze federal funding.
Plus, hearings for RFK Jr. and Kash Patel continue in the Senate. All that and more. Talking Points starts right now.
The media. There's no uncertainty in this building, so let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blank.
Thank you for joining us tonight and welcome into Talking Points. I'm Jake Morel.
And I'm Andrea-Rose Oates. Now, for the latest of the recent plane crash incidents in D.C. and Philadelphia just last week, one of the two plane engines from the D.C. crash was seen lifted out of the Potomac River earlier this morning. President Donald Trump spoke on both of the unfortunate events. In a recent press conference on Thursday, he pointed out the implications of the accident were caused by DEI policies.
President Trump claimed that he puts safety first, not policies like the Democratic Party does, referring to former Presidents Biden and Obama. The FAA has a long-standing policy of including people with disabilities in their recruitment practices. However, there is, of course, no evidence that these initiatives have compromised air safety or any relation to either one of the plane crash incidents.
About things you have described as common sense or your observations could in any way interfere with the thorough investigation of the crash?
No, I think they'll do an investigation. It'll probably come out the way I said it. I was right on all of it, but they'll still do an investigation just to check it out.
Democratic Senator Tim Kaine criticized Trump's stance in the wake of the crash as, quote, stomach-turning and damaging, end quote, considering he had no proof to back up his allegations.
And dozens of U.S. Education Department employees are now on paid administrative leave. This order is in President Trump's ban on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the federal government. The majority of workers placed on leave do not work in DEI initiatives. The action could disrupt much of the agency's work, including management of the federal student loans and FAFSA forms.
New leadership is coming to the Democratic Party. Ken Martin of Minnesota will be the chair of the Democratic National Committee after winning the election on Saturday. Martin hopes to unite the party and tackle campaigning issues that caused Kamala Harris to lose the 2024 election. In an interview with NBC News, Martin said, quote, "We have one team, the Democratic Party, and we have one fight. The fight is not out there, it's there." Democrats are hopeful that they can turn the page on the DNC of the past and start a new chapter under the direction of Martin.
And former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez will serve 11 years in prison for bribery and corruption charges. Menendez was caught accepting cash, a Mercedes-Benz, and gold bars as bribes in return for helping 3 businessmen and the Egyptian government. In court, the former senator's attorney argued that he deserved credit for his years of public service and to consider that before bringing any charges. However, prosecutors noted that despite any positive change that he sparked, his actions were, quote, were a, quote, extraordinary abuse of power and betrayal of public trust.
The effects of Trump's strict immigration policies are beginning to be felt across the country this week. Here to tell us more is Talking Points analyst Megan Acker. Megan?
Good evening, Andrea. President Trump signed the first law of his second term last Wednesday. The Laken Riley Act, named after the Georgia nursing student who was murdered by an undocumented Venezuelan gang member, the law mandates the federal detention of illegal immigrants arrested for theft or violent crime. Passed with considerable bipartisan support, it has been criticized by organizations including the ACLU as establishing a dangerous guilty until proven innocent precedent. The law is just the latest in a string of anti-immigration legislation. Trump was announcing executive orders even at the Wednesday signing.
Today I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And that's a tough place to get out of.
Guantanamo Bay has only ever held a maximum of 780 detainees. Meanwhile, as his order to rescind birthright citizenship for the children of illegal immigrants remains tied up in a series of legal battles, Trump has successfully revoked temporary protected status for Venezuelan citizens. While the status did not provide a path for citizenship, it protected many Venezuelans from deportation while their home country experienced political unrest. This comes after the Trump administration reached a deal with the Venezuelan government securing the release of 6 U.S. hostages. Venezuela has also agreed to accept deported Venezuelans.
Megan, there's been so many things that have come out of the White House on immigration, whether those are largely symbolic or whether they're solid policies or executive orders. I think what everyone's wondering is who's leading the charge on rolling these initiatives out?
Well, Jake, for an effort as large as this one, it has to be collaborative, but it does start at the very top with Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. The former South Dakota governor is in hot water today after the New York City raid, which led to 39 arrests. But Trump may or may not have complimented her at the Laken Riley signing. He had this to say on Wednesday.
And I know it's probably not complimentary because she is a woman, but she is tough. Where is she? Where is Kristi?
So despite this potential endorsement from the president, she's been dubbed as, quote, Ice Barbie. Critics are accusing her of using the New York City raids as a photo op. These raids have been pretty controversial, but they have been defended by a variety of New York State politicians. Governor Kathy Hochul emphasized that ICE raids are not new to the state of New York. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams defended the raids as well. Meanwhile, New York 24's Claudia Tenney, while not commenting directly on the raids, has written a letter urging President Donald Trump to open the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station to ICE as a station to detain and deport migrants. Now, protests for these raids have been going on in California, Texas, North Carolina, and it's not looking like they're going to stop anytime soon.
Now, Megan, as we know, these raids have been felt all over the country, and so many have been infected, unfortunately. I wonder, a lot of people wonder actually, especially here on our campus, will upstate New York be affected by these changes?
Thank you, Andy. Well, I think a lot of people think that because New York is a Democratic state that ICE may not be as present, but that's just not the case. We're seeing ICE raids in Rochester, Brockport, or even smaller towns like Geneva. We're noting that Onondaga County Sheriff Toby Shelley says that his office will not comply with immigration enforcement detainers. A detainer is not the same as an arrest warrant. That is simply a request made by the federal government to hold a non-citizen until ICE can obtain the citizen. Tompkins County Sheriff Derek R. Osborne is in hot water currently after his office did not comply with a criminal arrest warrant produced by ICE and released a non-citizen. Syracuse City School District released a detailed memorandum on Friday stating that they are recommending that students maintain an updated emergency contact info in light of all of these developments.
Thank you, Megan. This morning, a judge revisited Trump's federal funding freeze. The Trump administration is looking at conducting an ideological review of its spending. But in the meantime, millions of Americans could be impacted financially. Talking Points analyst Teagan Brostrom is in studio with us with the White House's next step. Teagan?
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, roughly a week into his presidency, Donald Trump released a federal funding freeze. He was attempting to block over $3 trillion in federal grants and loans, specifically targeting DEI and climate change organizations. The Trump administration is looking to ensure organizations are in line with their priorities and their values. This order led to a lot of confusion and worry amongst Americans. U.S. District Judge Lauren Alekin blocked the freeze following a lawsuit from a nonprofit legal organization. She revisited the case this morning and is maintaining the block of the federal freeze, and that's as of like 5 p.m. today. And within 48 hours of Trump issuing the order, the White House rescinded it and released a statement clarifying that the order is rescinded but not canceled. And Americans are still feeling the effects of that order not being canceled. Several nonprofit groups that focus on healthcare and homelessness haven't been able to receive their funding. And specifically, a Syracuse nonprofit executive shares the impact on their organization. He says, quote, "We're talking about older folks here. My mom gets Meals on Wheels. She's in another area, but she's 97 years old. What's she going to do if she can't get that kind of food? What are other people going to do who can relate to that?" End quote. And Americans are continuing to be impacted regardless of the block on this order. And we'll be back here on Talking Points with more impact. Back to you, Jake and Andy.
Teagan, thank you. Well, confirmation hearings for Kash Patel and RFK Jr. are still underway this week. Our analysts Ethan Kraut and Alex Burstein will have more after the break. Stick with us.
Here we go. We're going to go out there in the rain. You're going to get wet. All right, here we go. Oh, okay, quick. Oh, yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Rolling.
Sound is speeding.
Can you slow that down, please? This is 28-1.
28-1.
Welcome back to Talking Points. Last week, more of President Trump's cabinet nominees faced Senate confirmation hearings. Both Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Kash Patel faced more intense scrutiny than any other nominations, with senators pressing Kennedy on his controversial views on vaccines, while Patel was questioned on his loyalty to Trump. Covering the RFK hearings is Talking Points analyst Ethan Kraut. Ethan?
Thanks, Andy. Kennedy's confirmation hearings for Health and Human Services gained a lot of public attention last week after he had many contentious back and forth with senators on the Finance Committee, who will determine if he moves on to the final vote with the entire Senate. One of the most viral moments was when Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders questioned RFK about a onesie being sold by a group he founded.
And as someone who has discussed immunizations with thousands of people, I understand that mothers want reassurance that the vaccine their child is receiving is necessary, safe, and effective. We agree on that point, the two of us, but we've approached it differently. And I think I can say that I've approached it using the preponderance of evidence to reassure, and you've approached using selected evidence to cast doubt.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. That was actually Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who's also on the Senate Finance Committee. His vote will become one of the most important on the if RFK moves on to the final vote, as he has yet to determine whether or not he is going to vote for his confirmation, saying, quote, "I have yet to determine how I'm going to vote," end quote. But for now, it still remains to be seen if RFK will move on to a final vote. Now with more on Kash Patel's, Kash Patel is Alex Burstein.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. There's a lot of controversy going on in the FBI, some key members being fired, but the FBI director, one of the most important positions, and it's also now become one of the most hotly contested picks of all these cabinet positions. Kash Patel, he's had quite the career. The 44-year-old has former government experience as the chief of staff to the U.S. Secretary of Defense, But where things get complicated is his love of conspiracy theories. He's had plenty of warning signs, and now it's being put to test in his confirmation hearing. Patel's had numerous past controversies, such as producing a January 6th anthem and refusing to say on multiple occasions that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. It's led to some interesting confirmation hearing moments.
Every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments.
And I'm not going to accept that answer, because if you can't commit that those FBI agents will be protected from political retribution, we can't accept.
The biggest question is how much of a loyalist Patel is to Trump. Throughout the hearing, he had some rare moments where he actually broke from the current president. The end of the hearing came last Thursday, and it was just as expected. Questions from Democrats and pretty much praise from Republicans. Now the wait for confirmation continues. No Democratic votes are expected, so almost complete Republican support is likely needed for Patel. This comes among a surge of FBI agents being fired amidst calls from President Trump that the organization is corrupt. Of course, new agents require immense training, sometimes over a year, so currently complicated times for the FBI.
Well, we'd like to welcome these two handsome fellows to the desk. I want to talk about these confirmation hearings and some of the political calculations that they're making, but the first thing that I want to dive into with UAB is about Patel and him denying the 2020 election results. And of course, the overwhelming concern on Capitol Hill seems to be that if Patel is still denying the 2020 election, which of course is a completely false claim that he's making that Trump won it, will he go after some of these people who didn't do anything wrong in the 2020 election, just that they didn't want to accept the results? And will he use that to go after people and you know, use it as political retribution, as they were talking about in the hearings?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing right now is that he's saying it's not going to be politicized, but a lot of his action and his words say otherwise. Here's what he had to say during the hearing about his thoughts on the election.
Mr. Patel, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 presidential election? Yes or no?
President Biden's election was certified. He was sworn in, and he served as the president of the United States.
Once again, the people who are 100% loyal to President Trump cannot answer that question.
So, as you see, some hesitancy to actually saying that Biden won the election. That has a lot of concerns, especially as these FBI firings have come mainly with agents and executives who were part of these January 6 investigations. So, still a lot of questions about what Patel would do if he actually gets this.
Thank you, Alex. And so, Ethan, when we're talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., someone that we've seen a lot, especially, you know, during this time with his Senate hearing, he's also come out and made some pretty questionable comments when it comes to vaccinations. He also has earned over $2 million from vaccine-related lawsuits. So is RFK still anti-vaccine?
That's the question that everyone wants to know on Capitol Hill right now. If you ask RFK, he's going to say no. He's in favor of safe and effective vaccines. The only problem with that is that he has yet to find a vaccine that he has deemed safe and effective, which is a pretty major loophole that if you have your criteria so high that nothing can beat it, it's hard to say that you're not anti-vaccine. You mentioned the lawsuits. He's still he's no longer part of the Children's Defense Fund, which was what Bernie Sanders was talking about before with the onesies that were selling anti-vax messages on it. He said that he has nothing to do with it, but he also said that he would not force or ask the company to take those down. So he's trying to really become as moderate as possible with his views, but it still seems like a glaring hole in his confirmation hearings.
Right, and I know in the past he's also mentioned that he's pro-safety, so it's very interesting to see what that actually looks like.
Yeah, which brings up another question that seems to be a theme in Trump world over the past year. We've seen a lot of flip-flopping to, you know, just being in Trump's umbrella of opinions so that a lot of these people can get positions. I think the most glaringly obvious example of that is J.D. Vance, who once called Trump America's Hitler and then is now the Vice President of the United States. So between you two and these confirmation hearings, do you see a trend of flip-flopping on past opinions so that they can get confirmed?
I mean, it's kind of been a trend across the political spectrum. We saw the Democrats attack for this with Kamala Harris in the election. A lot of people are just changing their minds as the years go around, but it's especially pertinent right now, especially with these 2020 election deniers. People like Patel. We saw it less so with people like Marco Rubio, who got really quickly confirmed. But when you have these guys who have had very big conspiracy theories over the past 4 years, when they get to the Senate, you're not only trying to convince the Republicans, but you try to swing 1 or 2 Democrats or just get complete Republican support. That's really hard to do when you're having these complete conspiracy theories, so they are trying to back off their views just a tiny bit.
Yeah, for RFK, he actually has many policies that are very popular with a lot of people. He has with big farming, red dye that he wants to ban. It's a lot of policies that are very popular across the board. He just is really trying to hone in on the fact that he is not anti-vaccine. He keeps saying it, but he continuously won't say that he has seen a safe or effective vaccine that he would be willing to support. And it's something that he's really trying to push that narrative away from him so he could get through these confirmation hearings.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Coming up, Trump offers incentives to federal workers, and in return, well, they hand in their resignations. All that and more when we come back.
Forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Welcome back into Talking Points. In an effort to shrink the size of the federal government, President Trump has offered financial incentives to federal workers to leave their posts, where they'll receive pay for 8 months, and in return, well, like I said, they leave those posts. Many Democrats in Washington are pleading with workers to not give in and to keep their jobs. And bringing us deeper into this matter is Talking Points analyst Drew Matyasik. Drew?
That's right, Jake. Now, throughout the years, Republicans and Democrats have promised to the American people that they will cut the size of the federal government and all that red tape that comes with it, but none have been able to find a way to get it done. That is, until President Trump just took office. After his victory in November, President Trump appointed Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to head the newly created Department of Government Efficiency. However, Vivek has dropped and is now rumored to be pursuing a run for governor of Ohio in 2026. Through this department, Musk has taken some controversial measures, such as recently gaining access to the U.S. federal pay system through the Treasury Department and cutting spending through federal DEI contracts. Now, to add on to this, President Trump has just announced plans to incentivize federal workers to quit their jobs, where they will receive payment through September, but are not expected to work during that time. Now, it's unclear how much of this will cost or how it will even be implemented, but regardless, it will surely cut down on the size of the federal workforce, which is troubling to some Democrats, as they see bureaucracy as one of the few measures in place to stop President Trump's agenda, or they believe that the president will replace these employees with party loyalists. In response, Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia took to the Senate floor last week to urge these workers not to take that deal.
And they received an email that said, from the administration, if you tender your resignation by next Friday, we will guarantee you payment through the end of September, whether or not you show up for work. So tender your resignation, and then, boy, it's just going to be a gravy train. You're just going to get paid for 7 months without working. The president has no authority to make that offer. There's no budget line item to pay people who are not showing up for work for the next 7 months. Don't be fooled. He's tricked hundreds of people with that offer. If you accept that offer and resign, he'll stiff you just like he stiffed the contractors.
The deal is known as the Deferred Resignation Program and is being offered to almost every federal employee. Workers have until Thursday to decide whether or not they want to resign. Jake and Andy, back to you.
Thanks, Drew. President Trump made an announcement that all tariffs will not be implemented for another month with U.S. trading partners, Mexico and Canada. Trump wrote on Truth Social that he and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum agreed to immediately pause the tariffs after meeting. And this will allow for negotiations with important people, including the Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, and other high-level representatives of Mexico. So, I mean, I think this is a pretty good thing, considering that a lot of citizens in general were scared about these tariffs. The goal that the Trump administration said was to curb illegal drug trafficking and immigration as a whole. And Trump also wrote in another Truth Social post on Sunday, Jake, that, quote, "This will be the golden age of America. Will there be some pain? Yes, maybe and maybe not. But we will make America great again, and it will be all worth the price that must be paid," end quote. So, Jake, what do we think about this?
I don't know. You know, of course, the Trump administration is going to try and take this and spin it as a win for their immigration policies, but I think there's an interesting logic to the way that they went about doing this. He campaigned on implementing these tariffs. He said that he was going to do it the whole time. Then he started writing them and said that he was going to develop them. This morning, the opening bell shows a total nosedive in the S&P 500. Something in Trump world goes off that says maybe this isn't the best idea. Right. So what does he do? Well, he talks to Sheinbaum, he talks to Trudeau, and he gets deals done with both of them that are largely not doing anything different than what was already happening or anything that significant. One of the things that he talked about with Trudeau was that Trudeau was now going to help stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States from Canada. Well, according to the DEA, there was only 50 pounds that came from Canada in the year of 2024. That's compared to thousands coming from Mexico. And in Mexico, Sheinbaum agreed to send 10,000 troops to the border to help with illegal immigration and the flow of illegal drugs, which is something that they did to help the Biden administration in 2021 when all the Biden administration did was ask them. So then Trump goes and admits that this is going to hurt the American consumer. And honestly, I don't know if the political calculation is there to sort of ignite the rest of the Senate GOP. So I'm not sure if this was the best policy to get that done. And really, it's not clear if it is going to get anything done right now, except scaring the markets. And with that being said, we will be right back with more on the USAID and how Elon Musk is looking to gut it. Stick with us.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back into Talking Points. That's all we have for you on this episode, but be sure to keep it right here on Monday nights because we'll be covering everything coming out of the Trump White House in these unprecedented times. For everyone here at CitrusTV, I'm Jake Morel.
And I'm Andrea-Rose Oates. Have a great night, Syracuse.